Hello there. All right, so my topic is charter schools, and more specifically, I'm looking at free market-based charter schools. Why I think that's so important because it's, I think, the kind of the Trojan horse or vehicle in order to dismantle public education. Um, so what I'm really going to look at is that public education is currently under siege by a political and financial machine under the mask of reform. And this reform is, appears to be progressive, but in hindsight, it's really an attempt to undermine and dismantle public education. And what I'm going to be looking for are, well, I really just basically have my topic. I haven't necessarily narrowed it down, but I really want to look at free market educational charter schools and its effect on kids, more particular people, students of color, and also how it affects or dismantles actually the community. Um, my framework is I'm still kind of going back and forth. I haven't necessarily picked one. I want to look at some type of like a neo-Marxist social theory approach and looking at students as capital, in which larger corporations have seized an institution such as education in order to further profits, in which it would here would symbolically represent that the students are a new form of capital, in which will be kind of consumed within this larger mechanism. Um, and I was also possibly thinking about CRT in the sense of when a lot of these free market charter schools are actually just going to inner city schools. And if you look at statistics, the larger students that are affected by this are students of color, African American students, and Latino students. I think this topic is really relevant, and there's not that much research on it. This is kind of a new phenomenon. It's been kind of going on for a while now. However, I feel like it's escalated right now with certain case studies like the Regatta case and the tenure case in the K-12 setting. Um, and also just legislation that's been passed with Obama's Race to the Top that actually incorporates charter schools into the legislation that lower performing students will actually be taken up by charter schools. So I'm looking at those type of mechanisms, the policies that ultimately adhere to large corporations or hedge fund managers creating this free market innovation. And innovation is kind of the kind of the key term that they use a lot in order that competition and leads to innovation. Unfortunately, I don't think necessarily the rhetoric matches what eventually will happen. And I think this is a very significant issue because if we lose there is a privatization of public education, I think we lose kind of a democratic sensibility to not only our country, but it is kind of like the last hurrah of a democratic structure. And if we lose public education and it's privatized, then there's going to be an ultimate censorship to it. Um, I don't necessarily have research questions per se, but I do want to look at its effect on teachers. We really want to look at experiences of teachers that work in a free market type charter school, what kind of experiences that they have dealing with curriculum, dealing with fear of losing their job for speaking out along those lines, kind of within the aspect of like the tenure case. Another aspect I would really want to research or kind of uh, divulge into it, so to speak, is its effect on the community. The idea of the local school where you would go to school in your neighborhood and have that strong community base will ultimately be gone. So I'm looking for the effects within a community sense of a free market innovation charter school. And part of my own, like kind of an alternative motive is I really just kind of want to follow the money trail. Who's funding a lot of these like school reform things, and what do they ultimately have to gain? Because I think a lot of the school choice, schools first, Regatta case is following a larger agenda. I don't think those incidents are necessarily isolated. Um, and so the big picture I wrote over here is maintaining maintaining education, and having access to public education and making sure that it's not being constructed by corporate interest. So that's I know kind of all over all over the place on this, But that's basically what I want to study. So I'd be more than happy. Please, you have suggestions, angles I could kind of look at. Because I realize this is kind of broad, and I definitely need to narrow it down. Um, but I think there's something very important that needs to be said. And that's it. Peace out.